Hey, history lovers. Welcome to a side of ancient Rome you've never seen before. We all know the stories of emperors, legions, and epic battles. But who actually built the empire? Not just the generals and senators, but the real hands-on creators. This is a journey beyond the Colosseum's roar and the Senate's debates, deep into the workshops and bustling streets. We're talking about the blacksmiths, the potters, the weavers, the mosaic artists, the unsung artisans, whose skill and sweat were the true foundation of Roman greatness. Their daily lives, their ingenious techniques, and their quiet dedication shaped the world's most powerful empire from the ground up. This is Rome's Unsung Hands, where we bring their world to life. Join us as we uncover the stories of the people who truly built Rome, one masterpiece at a time. If you love history's hidden stories, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Have you ever marveled at the Colosseum, standing in awe of its sheer scale and enduring presence? Have you traced the lines of an ancient Roman aqueduct, wondering how such marvels were even possible 2,000 years ago? We often picture emperors, senators, and architects when we think of Rome's grandeur. But the story of these incredible structures begins long before the first stone was laid in the city. It starts far away, in the desolate, sun-scorched quarries, with the unsung heroes of the Roman Empire, the Stonemasons. Welcome to our journey back in time. Forget the bustling forum and the gilded palaces for a moment. Instead, picture this: a vast, open wound in the earth, blindingly white under the relentless Mediterranean sun. The air is thick, not with the scent of laurels and victory, but with a suffocating cloud of fine marble dust. This dust coats everything: your skin, your clothes, the inside of your lungs. The only soundtrack here is a brutal symphony, the piercing high-pitched crack of hundreds of chisels, striking stone, the guttural groan of massive blocks being levered from the earth, and the deafening bone-shaking thud as a slab of rock finally breaks free and crashes to the ground. This was the world of the Roman stonemason. Who were these men whose sweat and toil literally built an empire? They weren't the famous figures you read about in history books. Most were anonymous, their names lost to time. Many were slaves, captured in distant wars, and condemned to a life of hard labor. Others were freedmen or impoverished citizens, working for a meager wage that barely kept their families fed. Their social standing was near the bottom, far from the splendor and luxury of the city they were helping to create. Their bodies were their resumes, hardened and scarred by relentless physical exertion. Muscles coiled like ropes, backs bent from years of hauling, hands calloused and broken from the unyielding stone. This wasn't a job. It was a grueling existence. The tools they wielded were deceptively simple, extensions of their own raw power. Imagine the feel of a heavy wooden mallet in your hand, its weight familiar after thousands of swings. Picture the iron wedges driven into hairline cracks in the rock face, slowly, painstakingly, widening the fissure. And the chisels, an array of them, from pointed asterisk, subia asterisk for rough shaping, to flat chisels for finer work. But these tools were useless without the most important element: sheer, brute human force. Teams of men, working in perfect, rhythmic coordination, would hammer away for hours, their movements a practiced dance of power and precision. Extracting a single colossal block of marble, weighing dozens or even hundreds of tons, was a monumental task that could take weeks, even months. The process was as ingenious as it was dangerous. First, the quarrymen would identify a promising seam of marble. Then, using those chisels and mallets, they would carve a deep channel around the block they intended to extract. This was painstaking work, chipping away inch by grueling inch. Once the channel was deep enough, they would hammer in wooden wedges. Then, they'd pour water over the wedges. As the wood swelled with moisture, it exerted an immense, slow, and irresistible pressure on the surrounding stone. The men would wait, listening for the telltale groans and creaks, the sound of the mountain itself beginning to yield. The final moment of separation was the most perilous. A sudden shift, a miscalculation, and a multi-ton block could slide uncontrollably, crushing anyone in its path. The risk of rock falls, flying splinters, and the long-term effects of inhaling stone dust made this one of the most hazardous jobs in the ancient world. Life expectancy in the quarries was not high. These men worked from sunrise to sunset, their days dictated by the light and their own physical endurance. Their reward wasn't glory or wealth, but the simple fact of survival for another day. Yet, they were the foundation. Without their sacrifice, without their tireless, back-breaking labor, Rome's architectural dreams would have remained just that, lines on a wax tablet, fantasies in an architect's mind. The temples to the gods, the aqueducts that carried life-giving water, the amphitheaters that housed spectacular games, all of it began right here with a hammer, a chisel, and the unyielding spirit of the Roman stonemason. Every time you look at a Roman ruin, remember that its story didn't start with its construction, but with its deconstruction from the living rock of the earth. These monumental structures are not just monuments to emperors and generals. They are silent testaments to the thousands of forgotten laborers who quarried, shaped, and hauled the very bones of the empire. Their legacy is written in stone, a silent, powerful reminder of the human cost of creating something truly eternal. From the heart of the quarries, our journey follows the stone as it travels to the bustling heart of Rome. Here, in the shadow of what will become the mightiest amphitheater the world has ever known, a new chapter begins. Raw, imposing blocks of travertine arrive, ready to be transformed from simple earthborn material into an architectural masterpiece. This transformation is the domain of the urban stonemasons, a brotherhood of craftsmen whose skill will echo through eternity. Imagine standing amidst the sprawling construction site of the Flavian Amphitheater. This isn't just a building site. It's a city within a city, a relentless hive of organized, purposeful activity. The air thrums with a constant rhythmic symphony of creation. Listen closely, and you can hear it. The sharp, percussive asterisk tap dash tap dash tap asterisk of thousands of hammers striking chisels, a sound that rings out from dawn till dusk. You hear the grating scrape of massive saws slicing through limestone, and the deep, coordinated grunts of teams of men, their muscles straining as they use levers, pulleys, and sheer will to haul gargantuan stones into their final resting place. This wasn't just mindless labor. This was a highly specialized, almost scientific process. The workforce was a complex hierarchy of skill. First, you had the rough shapers, the asterisk quadratari asterisk. Their job was to take the quarry-cut blocks and give them their basic cubic form. They were the masters of the straight line and the right angle, ensuring each piece was prepared for the next stage. Their work had to be precise. A single poorly shaped block could compromise the integrity of an entire section. Following them were the fine carvers and sculptors, the true artists of the stone. These were the men who brought the Colosseum to life. Armed with an array of finer chisels, mallets, and drills, they meticulously shaped the blocks that would form the iconic arches, the grand columns, and the sweeping curves of the seating tiers. They didn't just see a block of stone. They saw the potential within it. They understood how to work with the grain, how to coax elegant forms from unforgiving material. Their hands were guided by an innate understanding of geometry and a deep appreciation for aesthetic beauty. And then there were the specialists, the masters of ornamentation. Think of the intricate details, the Corinthian capitals crowning the columns, the decorative friezes, the elaborate cornices. These were the work of the asterisk marmorari asterisk, the marble workers, and other decorative carvers. They were responsible for the finishing touches that elevated the Colosseum from a mere structure to a symbol of imperial grandeur. Their work was the jewelry on the body of the beast, a testament to the wealth, power, and sophisticated taste of Rome. They would carve floral motifs, mythic figures, and intricate patterns, each detail adding to the overwhelming sense of awe the building was designed to inspire. These men were far more than just laborers. They were a fusion of engineer, artist, and mathematician. To be a stonemason on the Colosseum project required a profound understanding of structural mechanics. They had to know which type of stone was suitable for which part of the structure, how to distribute weight across an arch, and how to lock stones together without mortar using precisely cut joints and iron clamps. An error in their calculations or a moment of carelessness in their craft could lead to catastrophic failure. They worked from architectural plans, likely drawn on papyrus or etched onto wooden boards. These plans would have been translated into reality through the use of simple but effective tools. Plumb bobs to ensure vertical accuracy, set squares for perfect right angles, and compasses to scribe the great arcs of the amphitheater. They were applying principles of physics and advanced geometry on a scale that is difficult to comprehend even today. They were turning abstract designs and mathematical formulas into a tangible, three-dimensional reality of stone and space. Their legacy is not just the building itself, but the knowledge embedded within its walls. Every perfectly fitted block, every graceful curve, every load-bearing arch is a silent testament to their genius. They were the unsung heroes who took the emperor's vision and the architect's design and, with sweat, skill, and stone, built a monument that would defy time. They weren't just building an arena for games. They were carving the very identity of Rome into the landscape, creating an enduring symbol of its power, ingenuity, and everlasting glory. From the solid world of stone, we now shift our focus to the earth itself, to the humble yet essential craft of the potter. Can you picture it? A Roman workshop, filled with the haze of dust motes dancing in the sunlight and the faint, earthy scent of wet clay. At its heart is the potter, a figure of intense concentration, their hands and arms speckled with slip. This wasn't just a job. It was a dance between human skill and the raw elements. The central instrument in this dance was, of course, the potter's wheel. Imagine the scene, a lump of shapeless, gray clay slapped onto the center of the spinning disc. The wheel begins to turn, a rhythmic, hypnotic whirring sound filling the space. The potter's foot might be pumping a kick wheel, or an apprentice might be turning a larger version. It's a blur of motion, but from this chaos, order begins to emerge. With a gentle, practiced pressure, the potter's hands guide the clay. Thumbs press down, creating a hollow. Fingers draw the walls upward, thinning and shaping them with a delicate touch that belies the strength required. The squelch of wet clay, the constant trickle of water to keep it pliable, these are the sounds of creation. In what seems like mere moments, the lump transforms, rising into the familiar, elegant form of a vessel. Perhaps it's a slender-necked amphora, destined to carry wine across the sea, a wide, shallow plate for a family's meal, or a small, simple oil lamp that will cast a warm glow in a modest home. Each piece is born from this same mesmerizing process. But not all clay was created equal. Roman potters were masters of their materials, sourcing different types of clay for different purposes. A coarse, gritty clay, full of tiny stones, might be perfect for a sturdy cooking pot that needed to withstand the direct heat of a fire. For fine tableware, the sought-after terra sigillata or sealed earth, a potter would use a much finer, purified clay with a high iron content. This would be mixed into a liquid slip, allowing impurities to settle out, leaving only the finest particles. It was this special slip that gave the finished pottery its characteristic glossy, red finish. Once the pot was shaped, it was set aside to dry to a leather-hard state. This was the stage for decoration. Potters could incise patterns, apply molded decorations called appliques *, or use a technique called *barbotine*, where thick slip was piped onto the surface to create raised designs almost like icing on a cake. This is where a potter could truly show their artistry, adding floral motifs, geometric patterns, or even scenes from mythology to everyday objects. After decorating, the pots were coated in a slip or glaze. The famous red gloss of terra sigillata wasn't a glaze in the modern sense, but an ultrafine clay slip that would vitrify, or turn glass-like, in the kiln. This not only made the pottery beautiful, but also less porous. Other glazes, often lead-based, could produce a range of colors, from green to yellow, adding another layer of visual appeal. Then came the trial by fire. The kiln. This was the moment of truth, the culmination of all the potter's effort. Roman kilns were typically updraft kilns, brick structures often built into a hillside. The pots were carefully stacked inside a chamber, separated from the firebox below by a perforated floor. Loading the kiln was an art in itself. Pieces had to be arranged to allow hot air to circulate evenly, without touching and fusing together. Firing was a slow, deliberate process that could last for days. The potter would gradually increase the temperature, monitoring the color of the flame and the glow from inside the kiln. It was an exercise in patience and intuition. A mistake here could be catastrophic. If the temperature rose too quickly, pots could crack. If it wasn't hot enough, the glaze wouldn't mature. Weeks, even months, of work could be reduced to a pile of warped, broken shards in a single bad firing. The suspense must have been immense. But when the firing was successful, and the kiln was finally unbricked after cooling, it was like opening a treasure chest. The dull, chalky surfaces of the unfired pots would have been transformed into vibrant, glossy, and durable objects. The unpredictable magic of the fire could create subtle variations in color, making each piece unique. It was a moment of triumph, turning earth and water into something lasting and useful. The products of these workshops were absolutely everywhere in the Roman world. They were the foundation of daily life. Think of a Roman kitchen. It would be filled with ceramic cooking pots, mixing bowls, and storage jars, or dolia, large enough to hold oil or grain. A Roman dining table would be set with fine red gloss plates and cups. Trade and logistics depended on the amphora, the standardized shipping container of the ancient world, each shape indicating its contents: wine from Gaul, olive oil from Spain, or fish sauce from North Africa. Even Roman infrastructure relied on the potter. Terracotta roof tiles, or tegulae, covered buildings from villas to temples, and interlocking ceramic pipes formed the vast network of aqueducts and sanitation systems. From the most mundane cooking pot to the most elaborately decorated serving dish, the potter's creations were ubiquitous. Their work was the bedrock of Roman domestic life, commerce, and construction. These artisans weren't just making pots. They were shaping the very texture of the Roman world, one spinning wheel and one fiery kiln at a time. Their legacy is not just in the beautiful museum pieces we admire today, but in the countless sherds of pottery found at every archaeological site, each one a small testament to the hands that shaped it and the fire that gave it life. Ever wonder how an entire empire, a colossal entity like Rome, actually ran day to day? Forget the legions and emperors for a moment. The real pulse of Roman life, the rhythm of its economy and the flavor of its homes, was shaped by something far more common, yet utterly essential: pottery. The Roman potter wasn't just a craftsman. They were the backbone of the empire's material culture, and their work touched literally everyone. Imagine the bustling docks of Ostia, the port of Rome. What do you see? Towering stacks of terracotta vessels, thousands upon thousands of them. These are amphorae, the shipping containers of the ancient world. They weren't just decorative jars. They were the lifeblood of commerce. Think of them as the FedEx boxes of their time, but instead of cardboard, they were sturdy, fired clay. Each one was a testament to the potter's skill, designed to withstand the long, arduous journeys across the Mediterranean. Inside these amphorae, you'd find the essentials of Roman life. Rich, dark wine from the vineyards of Gaul, golden olive oil from Spain, and the infamous, pungent fish sauce known as garum. Every province had its specialty, and the amphora was the vessel that carried these flavors across the empire, connecting a farmer in Hispania to a diner in Britannia. It's a staggering thought, the sheer scale of this operation. Millions of amphorae, each one made by hand, filled, sealed, and shipped. And what's fascinating is that these weren't anonymous containers. Look closely, and you'll find stamps on the handles or necks. These were the maker's marks, the ancient equivalent of a brand logo. They might name the potter, the owner of the estate, where the contents were produced, or even the consul in power at the time. Archaeologists use these stamps to trace trade routes, reconstruct economic networks, and understand the vast logistical machine that was the Roman Empire. Each shard of a broken amphora is a clue, a piece of a massive economic puzzle. But the potter's influence wasn't just on the grand stage of imperial trade. Let's step away from the noisy docks and into a quiet Roman home. A domus. Look around. The potter's hand is everywhere. That lamp casting a warm glow in the corner? Its small, clay body was shaped and fired in a local workshop. It holds the olive oil, another product transported in a larger clay vessel that fuels its flame. The simple act of lighting a room depended entirely on the potter. Now, walk into the kitchen. The air is filled with the aroma of herbs and spices. How are they prepared? In a mortarium, a heavy, gritty ceramic bowl designed specifically for grinding. The potter added coarse sand or grit to the clay before firing, creating a rough interior surface perfect for crushing ingredients with a pestle. This wasn't a luxury item. It was a fundamental kitchen tool, found in every household, from the humblest apartment block to the most lavish villa. Think about the meal itself. The water is stored in large clay dolia. The cooking happens in sturdy earthenware pots designed to sit directly on the coals, and the food is served on plates and in bowls. Even the most basic meal was a showcase of the potter's craft. For everyday use, people had simple, plain wares. Functional, durable, and affordable. These were the bread and butter products of the countless pottery workshops that dotted the empire. These workshops were often small, family-run businesses. Picture a father teaching his son how to center the clay on the wheel, the rhythmic whirring filling the dusty space. They would dig their own clay, process it, and have a kiln nearby to fire their creations. These workshops weren't just places of production. They were vital local economic hubs. They employed people, supplied entire communities, and formed the very fabric of Roman urban and rural life. But Romans also had a taste for luxury, and the potters delivered. Let's imagine a dinner party, a cena, in a wealthy patrician's home. The table wouldn't be set with plain earthenware. Instead, you'd find the famous Samian ware, also known as terra sigillata. This was the fine china of the Roman world. It was distinguished by its glossy, vibrant red-orange surface, so smooth it almost feels like polished stone. Making Samian ware was a highly specialized process. It required specific types of clay and a complex two-stage firing process in the kiln to achieve that signature color and sheen. But the real artistry was in the decoration. Potters used molds to create intricate relief designs on the surface. You'd see scenes from mythology, gladiatorial contests, graceful animals, or delicate floral patterns. It was mass-produced luxury, but the quality and artistry were exceptional. Owning a set of Samian ware was a status symbol, a way to display wealth and sophisticated taste. So, from the humble mortarium used to grind peppercorns to the gleaming Samian ware gracing a banquet table, from the oil lamp lighting a dark room to the amphora carrying wine across the sea, the potter's work was ubiquitous. It was an industry that responded to every need of society, providing the vessels for storage, transport, cooking, dining, and even lighting. The sheer volume is almost incomprehensible. Archaeologists in Rome have found a literal mountain made almost entirely of broken pottery shards. It's called Monte Testaccio, and it's a man-made hill composed of the remains of an estimated 53 million amphorae, discarded over centuries. It stands today as a monumental, accidental tribute to the humble Roman potter. Their legacy is a tangible connection to the past. When you see a Roman pot in a museum, you're not just looking at an artifact. You're looking at an object that was part of someone's daily life 2,000 years ago. Someone made it, someone filled it, someone sold it, and someone used it. It tells a story of commerce, of food, of family, and of the quiet, everyday rhythm of an empire. The Roman potter was more than a craftsman. They were the unsung architect of the Roman world. Step into a Roman workshop. Close your eyes for a moment and just listen. What do you hear? Forget the clang of the blacksmith's hammer or the shouts of the marketplace for a second. Listen closer. There's a steady, rhythmic hum. A constant, comforting pulse. That's the sound of life being woven, thread by thread. It's the clack, clack, clack of the loom, a sound as fundamental to Roman life as the Latin language itself. It's the gentle asterisk, thwack asterisk of the shuttle, a wooden bird flying back and forth, trailing a lifeline of yarn. It's the soft rustle of wool, the whisper of linen, the very fibers that will soon become the clothes on every remount's back. This is the world of the weaver, one of the most essential, yet often overlooked, artisans of the ancient world. Today, we're pulling back the curtain to explore their craft, their tools, and their incredible contribution to the fabric of Roman society. So, how did a fluffy sheep, fleece, or a stalk of flax become a sturdy tunic or an elegant toga? The journey was long, laborious, and almost entirely powered by human hands. It all began with the raw materials. Let's talk about wool first, the workhorse of the Roman textile industry. After shearing, the fleece was a greasy, dirty mess, full of lanolin, sweat, and bits of whatever the sheep had rolled in. The first step was a thorough washing, often in vats of stale urine. Yes, you heard that right. The ammonia in the urine was a powerful and readily available cleaning agent that cut through the grease. Once cleaned and dried, the real work of preparation began. This is where we meet the tools of the trade, cones and cards. The wool fibers were tangled and matted, so they needed to be aligned. Workers would pull the wool between these tools, over and over, teasing out the knots and aligning all the fibers in the same direction. It was dusty, repetitive work, but absolutely crucial. A poorly carded fleece would result in lumpy, weak yarn. This process created soft, airy rolls of wool called rovings, now ready for the magic of spinning. Spinning was the process of drawing out and twisting these fibers into a continuous, strong thread. The primary tool for this was the drop spindle. It's a deceptively simple device. Just a stick, the spindle, with a weight at the bottom, the whirl. A spinner would attach a bit of the prepared wool to the spindle, give it a twirl, and let it drop. As it spun, it twisted the fibers together. The spinner's hands were constantly in motion, skillfully drawing out just the right amount of wool from the roving to create a thread of consistent thickness. It was a skill that took years to master. Too much twist, and the yarn became brittle. Too little, and it would simply fall apart. This task was so ubiquitous, so fundamentally tied to the female domain, that it became a symbol of wifely virtue and domestic industry. Most women, from the Empress Livia down to the humblest plebeian wife, would have known how to spin. It was often done communally, a time for women to gather, work, and socialize, their hands and spindles moving in a synchronized ancient dance. Linen, derived from the flax plant, followed a similar, if slightly different path. After harvesting, the flax stalks had to be retted, which means they were submerged in water to rot away the woody outer core, leaving behind the long, strong bast fibers. This was a smelly, unpleasant process. Then, The stalks were broken, scraped, and combed to separate and clean the fibers. Like wool, these linen fibers were then spun into thread using a spindle. Linen was prized for its lightness and strength, especially in the warmer Mediterranean climate, but its production was even more labor-intensive than wool's. Once our spinner had produced enough yarn, and it took lot of yarn for a single garment, it was time for the main event, the weaving. Let's step back into that workshop and look at the centerpiece, the loom. The most common type in Roman times was the warp-weighted loom. Imagine a large, upright wooden frame, almost like a giant doorway, leaning against a wall. The vertical threads, called the warp, were tied to the top beam. But instead of being secured at the bottom, they hung freely, kept taut by heavy weights made of clay or stone, tied to small bunches of threads. This is where the loom gets its name. The weaver, usually a woman, stood in front of this contraption for hours on end. Her job was to pass the horizontal thread, the weft, back and forth through the warp threads. To do this, she used a heddle rod, which was a bar that held a set of alternate warp threads. By pulling this rod forward, she created a space, called the shed, between the threads. Through this opening, she would pass the shuttle, a boat-shaped piece of wood carrying a bobbin of weft yarn. Thwack. Then she would push the heddle rod back, changing which set of threads was in front, creating a new shed. She'd then pass the shuttle back the other way. Thwack. After each pass, she would use a wooden or bone sword, or beater, to beat the newly woven weft thread upwards, packing it tightly against the previously woven fabric. Clack, pull, thwack, beat, pull, thwack, beat. It was a physically demanding, rhythmic process that slowly, painstakingly, built up the cloth from the bottom up. The skill of the weaver was paramount. It determined the density, the texture, and the quality of the final fabric. A skilled weaver could create a tight, durable weave for a soldier's tunic, or a light, almost sheer fabric for a wealthy matron's stola. They could vary the tension and the beat to create different effects. And they weren't just making plain cloth. By using pre-dyed yarns, weavers could create stripes, checks, and complex patterns. Think of the purple striped toga praetexta worn by magistrates and priests. That stripe wasn't painted on. It was woven directly into the fabric, a testament to the weaver's precision. For the truly wealthy, weavers could create incredibly intricate tapestries and figured textiles, using multiple shuttles with different colored threads to paint pictures with yarn. These were luxury goods, signs of immense status and wealth, and the weavers who made them were highly specialized and respected artisans. These workshops, known as textrinae could range in size. Many weaving operations were small-scale, run from within a family home, contributing to the household's income. But there were also larger, more industrial-scale workshops, often staffed by enslaved people, churning out textiles for the military or for mass sale. In these larger workshops, the hum of the looms would have been a constant roar, a testament to the insatiable Roman demand for clothing. From the simplest loincloth to the most elaborate ceremonial robe, every single piece of fabric began its life on a loom like this. The weaver's work touched every single person in the Roman Empire. They created the sails that powered Roman ships, the tents that sheltered its legions, the blankets that warmed its beds, and the clothes that defined its people's identity, status, and profession. When you saw a Roman, you were looking at the weaver's art, the cut and color of a toga, the roughness of a slave's tunic, the delicate drape of a woman espalla. All of it was born from the rhythmic clack and hum of the loom. They were the silent partners in Roman self-expression, the architects of appearance. Their threads connected everyone, from the emperor on his throne to the farmer in his field, in a shared material culture. They were, quite literally, the weavers of the Roman world. So next time you look at a statue of a Roman senator draped in his toga, don't just see the stone. Try to see the threads. Hear the clack of the loom, feel the texture of the wool, and remember the skilled hands and tireless labor of the weaver who transformed raw fiber into a symbol of an empire. Their legacy isn't just in museums. It's in the very concept of cloth and clothing that we still live with today. We've talked about the weavers and their looms, but what happens after the cloth is made? How does it go from a plain, off-white fabric to a vibrant symbol of power, wealth, and identity? That, my friends, is where the dyer comes in. So hold your nose, because we're about to step into the pungent, fascinating, and incredibly important world of the Roman dyer. Imagine walking through a bustling Roman city like Pompeii or Rome itself. You'd pass by bakeries with the warm scent of bread, temples with the sweet smell of incense, and then you'd hit the dyer's district. You would know it instantly. The air would be thick with a sharp, ammoniac smell, mixed with earthy and sometimes marine odors. This wasn't a place for the faint of heart, but it was a hub of incredible transformation and big business. The dyer's workshop, the *Phalonica*, was where magic happened. It was where plain wool and linen were imbued with life, turning them into commodities that could define a person's place in the world. So, what was that overwhelming smell? Well, a key ingredient in the Roman dyeing process was, believe it or not, aged human urine. Yes, you heard that right. Urine was so valuable for its ammonia content that the Emperor Vespasian even placed a tax on it. The ammonia acted as a mordant, a chemical substance that helps the dye bite into the fabric fibers and fix the color, making it permanent and vibrant. Large clay pots, or *dolia*, would be placed on street corners to collect this liquid gold. The dyers would then let it ferment, increasing its potency. It's a stark reminder that ancient chemistry was a mix of science, resourcefulness, and a strong stomach. Without these mordants, most dyes would simply wash right out, leaving a faded, disappointing mess. Now, let's talk about the colors themselves. The Roman palette was derived almost entirely from the natural world. For the common person, a splash of color might come from more accessible plants. Weld, a plant that grew widely, could produce a lovely sunny yellow. For a deep, rich red, the go-to source was the root of the madder plant. This was a staple of the industry, creating a range of hues from pink to a deep crimson, depending on the mordant and the dyeing technique. Think of the iconic red cloaks of Roman soldiers. Many of them would have gotten their start in a bubbling vat of madder. These weren't necessarily cheap, but they were within the realm of possibility for a significant portion of the population, adding a bit of cheer to everyday garments. But what about the blues? For that, the Romans turned to a plant called woad. The process of extracting blue dye from woad leaves was complex. The leaves had to be harvested, crushed, and fermented into a sludgy paste. This paste was then dried into cakes and sold to the dyers. When it was time to dye, the dyer would reactivate the woad in a vat, often with, you guessed it, more stale urine as an alkaline agent. The fabric would come out of the vat a sickly yellow-green color. It was only when it was exposed to the oxygen in the air that the magical transformation occurred, as the color oxidized and deepened into a true, lasting blue. It must have been an incredible sight to witness, a piece of everyday chemical wizardry. Of course, not all colors were created equal. If you truly wanted to show the world you had made it, you didn't wear red or blue. You wore purple, specifically Tyrian purple. This was the color of emperors, of senators, of the absolute elite. Its status was legendary, and its price was astronomical, often worth more than its weight in gold. Why was it so expensive? Because its source was incredibly rare, and the production process was painstakingly difficult. Tyrian purple was extracted from a tiny gland in a specific type of sea snail, the murex. Imagine this. It took tens of thousands of these snails to produce enough dye for a single toga-sea trim. The process was as smelly as it was laborious. The snails were harvested, their glands removed, and then left to rot in salt water under the sun for a precise number of days. The resulting liquid produced a range of colors, from violet to a deep blood-red purple, which was the most prized shade of all. The smell from these purple-dyeing workshops, which were located on the coast in cities like Tyre, was said to be so overpowering that it could be detected for miles. But for the Roman elite, the cost and the smell were a small price to pay for the ultimate status symbol. Wearing Tyrian purple wasn't just a fashion choice. It was a statement of supreme power and untouchable wealth. It was illegal for anyone below a certain rank to wear it. The dyer's craft was, therefore, deeply tied to the social hierarchy of Rome. Color was a language everyone understood. A senator's purple-striped toga, a general's crimson cloak, or a bride's saffron yellow veil all communicated specific roles and statuses within society. But dyers didn't just color clothing. Their work was essential for military banners, signaling legions on the battlefield. They created the vibrant threads used in elaborate tapestries that decorated the villas of the rich, telling stories of myth and history in brilliant color. Even a humble cloak could be given a simple brown or gray hue, making it more practical and durable. The workshops themselves, often located near a constant source of water like a river, were intricate operations. They had vats for scouring and cleaning the raw wool, vats for the mordants, and heated vats for the dyes themselves. It was hot, steamy, and physically demanding work. Dyers were skilled artisans, masters of chemistry, who passed down their secret recipes through generations. They needed to understand the properties of different fibers, the precise temperatures for their vats, and the exact timing required to achieve the perfect shade. A slight miscalculation could ruin an entire batch of expensive cloth. Theirs was a craft that combined artistry, science, and sheer hard labor. So the next time you look at a painting of ancient Rome, or watch a movie set in that period, pay close attention to the colors. Behind every vibrant red, every deep blue, and every impossibly rich purple lies the story of the Roman dyer. They were the unsung artisans who navigated a world of foul smells and complex chemistry to bring color, status, and beauty to the Roman Empire. Their work was a cornerstone of commerce, a reflection of social structure, and a testament to human ingenuity. It's a craft that truly colored history. Now, let's step into a workshop that you would have smelled long before you saw it. The leatherworkers. Imagine the air, thick with the earthy, pungent scent of curing hides. This smell was so strong that tanneries were often pushed to the outskirts of towns, and for good reason. But inside the main shop, that raw smell mingled with something more refined, the scent of finished leather goods. And the sounds, a constant rhythmic symphony of craftsmanship. The steady asterisk thud, dash, thud, dash, thud, asterisk of a wooden mallet shaping a piece of wet leather over a form. The sharp, decisive asterisk, snip asterisk of heavy shears cutting through a thick hide. And the delicate, precise asterisk, tap, dash, tap, tap asterisk of an all-piercing holes, followed by the quiet pull of a needle and waxed thread stitching it all together. This was the world of the leatherworker, a master of transformation. The journey from a raw, hairy animal hide to a fine pair of sandals was a long, laborious, and frankly, a very smelly one. The first stage, canning, was a dirty job. Hides had to be scraped clean of all flesh and hair. Then they were soaked in vats, filled with some rather unpleasant concoctions. Often, this involved using substances like animal dung or urine to break down the fibers and prepare the hide. After that, they were transferred to pits with tannins, usually derived from tree bark, like oak. This process could take months, even years for the thickest hides, but it was crucial. Tanning is what stops the hide from rotting and turns it into the durable, flexible material we know as leather. It's a chemical process that transforms a perishable skin into a product that could last for decades. Once the leather was tanned, dried, and softened, the true artistry began. The leatherworker was one of the most versatile artisans in any town. Think about how essential leather was. For the Roman legionary marching across the empire, the leatherworker provided his caligae, those famous hobnailed sandals built to withstand hundreds of miles. He crafted the soldier's belt, or cingulum, from which his sword hung, and even parts of his armor and the tough leather covering for his shield. Leather was the fabric of the army, offering protection and durability that cloth simply couldn't match. But it wasn't just for soldiers. Every single person relied on the leatherworker. The farmer needed sturdy straps for his ox cart and harnesses for his plow animals. The merchant needed durable bags and satchels to carry his coins and goods safely on long journeys. The lady of a wealthy household might desire a finely tooled purse, dyed in vibrant colors and stitched with incredible precision. Belts, waterskins, buckets, bellows for the blacksmith, even hinges for doors and covers for books. The list of items crafted from leather is almost endless. The leatherworker was the ultimate provider of durability and function. They created the very things that held society together, quite literally. From the simplest strap to the most ornate piece of armor, their work was a constant, essential presence in daily life. So next time you pick up a leather wallet or put on a pair of leather shoes, take a moment. Think back to that ancient workshop, filled with the smell of hides and the sound of the hammer. Remember the incredible journey that material has been on, from a raw animal skin through a long and smelly tanning process, to the skilled hands of a craftsman who shaped it into something both beautiful and incredibly useful. The legacy of the leatherworker is one of resilience and practicality, a craft that equipped an entire civilization for the challenges of daily life. We're stepping into the bustling workshops of Roman leatherworkers, a craft that was absolutely fundamental to the might and daily life of the Roman Empire. When you think of Rome, you probably picture gleaming armor and towering aqueducts, but the unsung hero of the empire might just be leather. Let's start with the feet of the legionaries, the very foundation of Rome's military dominance. Have you ever heard of the caligae? These weren't just sandals. They were masterpieces of engineering. Imagine a thick, multi-layered leather sole, studded with hobnails for grip and durability. The open design of the straps wasn't for style. It was brilliant for ventilation, preventing blisters and other foot problems during those relentless marches across continents. A Roman legionary could march over 20 miles a day after day, and their caligae were designed to withstand that punishment. Each pair was a testament to the leatherworker's skill, a piece of equipment as crucial as the sword or the shield. Without these boots, the Roman army simply couldn't have conquered and controlled its vast territory. They were the engine of the empire's expansion, and they were made of leather. But the military's reliance on leather didn't stop at the feet. Think about the belts. The Roman military belt, or cingulum militare, was more than just something to hold up your tunic. It was a status symbol, a badge of honor. Decorated with metal plates, these wide leather belts also offered a degree of protection to the midsection. Hanging from the cingulum was the apron, a series of leather straps, often with metal pendants, that jingled as the soldier walked. This wasn't just for show. It created an intimidating sound and offered a bit of protection to the groin area. Can you imagine the psychological effect of thousands of these belts clinking in unison as a legion advanced? It was a sound of power, all held together by sturdy, well-crafted leather. And of course, every soldier needed to carry their gear. The scutum, the iconic rectangular shield, had leather straps on the inside for the legionary to grip. Their swords, the gladius, were housed in scabbards, often made of a wood core covered in leather. Even the helmets sometimes had leather liners for comfort and fit. From the straps that held their armor together to the harnesses for their pack animals, leather was the thread that bound the Roman war machine. Now, let's leave the barracks and walk through a typical Roman city. The leatherworker's craft was just as vital here. Look around. The merchant heading to the forum carries his coins not in a pocket, but in a leather purse pulled tight with a drawstring. The scholar or lawyer rushing to the courts has their important scrolls tucked safely into a cylindrical leather case, a capsa, protecting them from the elements. The craftsman carries his tools in a durable leather satchel, built to last a lifetime. Even the simple act of getting a drink of water could involve leather. Water skins, made from treated animal hides, were the original canteens. They were lightweight, durable, and could be easily carried on a long journey or a hot day working in the fields. The smell of a leatherworker's shop, a mix of animal hide, tanning agents, and dyes, would have been a familiar scent in any Roman town. These weren't just factories. They were the hubs that produced the essential, hard-wearing components of everyday life. But it wasn't all about pure function. Roman leatherworkers were also incredible artists. For the wealthy elite, luxury was key. Imagine a finely crafted belt, not for a soldier, but for a senator's wife, made from the softest kidskin and dyed a brilliant purple or red. Some artisans specialized in embossing, pressing intricate patterns of gods, goddesses, or geometric designs into the leather. Others were masters of decorative stitching, using colored thread to create beautiful and unique items. These luxury goods, from elegant satchels to ornate book covers for precious scrolls, were symbols of status and wealth. A piece of finely decorated leather was as much a work of art as a sculpture or a mosaic. These artisans had a deep understanding of their materials. They knew which animal hide was best for which purpose. Tough cattle hide for sandals and belts, supple goat or sheepskin for clothing and bags. The tanning process itself was a closely guarded secret, a complex and often smelly process involving substances, like tree bark tannins or alum, to preserve the hide and make it pliable and durable. They were chemists, engineers, and artists all rolled into one. Their workshops, noisy and active, were the places where raw animal hides were transformed into the objects that kept Roman society moving, trading, and fighting. So the next time you picture a Roman legionary marching, or a citizen going about their day, remember the silent, constant presence of leather. It was on their feet, around their waists, in their hands, and carrying their most precious possessions. It was the backbone of the army and the fabric of civilian life. The story of Rome is written not just in stone and marble, but in the millions of stitches and cuts made by its skilled and indispensable leatherworkers. In our third episode, we're stepping into a world of heat, sweat, and raw power, the world of the blacksmith. If you close your eyes and imagine a Roman artisan, chances are the image that comes to mind is this: a muscular figure, silhouetted against the fiery glow of a forge, hammer raised high. And for good reason. The blacksmith was, without a doubt, one of the most vital figures in the entire Roman economy. The Romang forge or fabrica wasn't just a workshop. It was a symphony of controlled chaos. Imagine the constant rhythmic breathing of the bellows, great leather lungs forcing air into the heart of the fire, making the charcoal blaze with an intense, white-hot fury. Then the sharp, percussive clang of the hammer striking the anvil, a sound that would have echoed through every Roman town and military camp. It's a sound of creation, of transformation. The air would be thick with the smell of burning coal and hot metal, punctuated by the sharp hiss and plume of steam as a glowing piece of iron was plunged into a trough of water to quench it. And everywhere, a shower of brilliant orange sparks would dance in the dim light, illuminating a scene of immense strength and incredible skill. This wasn't just brute force. Transforming a lump of raw, unrefined iron into a useful object required a deep understanding of the material. The blacksmith had to know exactly how to heat the metal to the perfect temperature. Too cold, and it wouldn't budge. Too hot, and it could be ruined. They had to know precisely where and how hard to strike with the hammer, shaping the metal with a combination of power and precision that was almost artistic. It was a physically demanding, dangerous job that required years of apprenticeship to master. These artisans were the unsung heroes who literally forged the tools of an empire. And what tools they were! Think about the foundations of Roman civilization. How did they feed their millions of citizens? With iron plows to break the earth, sickles and scythes to harvest the grain, and hoes to tend the crops, all born in the blacksmith's fire. These agricultural implements were the first step in the chain that supplied the bread for the Roman table. Without the blacksmith, the vast farms and estates that were the empire's breadbasket would have ground to a halt. Every farmer relied on the durability and sharpness of tools forged by their local smith. Now look up from the fields and towards the magnificent structures of Rome itself. The Colosseum, the aqueducts, the temples, and even the humble Roman villa. What held them all together? It wasn't just mortar and stone. It was an astonishing quantity of iron. Every wooden beam was secured with iron nails, some of them surprisingly large. Every door swung on sturdy iron hinges. Gates were locked with complex iron bolts and keys. Decorative grills, structural braces, clamps. The list is endless. The blacksmith was the silent partner of the Roman architect and engineer. They produced the millions upon millions of essential metal fasteners that were the skeleton holding the flesh of Roman architecture together. Without the blacksmith, Rome's grandest buildings would have been impossible to construct. Of course, we can't talk about the Roman blacksmith without mentioning their crucial role in the military. The Roman legionary was a walking testament to the blacksmith's craft. The iconic asterisk larica segmentata asterisk, the segmented plate armor, was a masterpiece of metalworking, providing incredible protection while allowing for flexibility. Each plate had to be hammered to the right shape and thickness, and all the hinges, buckles, and clasps had to be perfectly crafted. Then there were the weapons, the short, stabbing sword known as the asterisk gladius asterisk, the heavy javelin or asterisk, pilum asterisk, with its clever bending shank, and the spearheads. The quality of these items could mean the difference between life and death on the battlefield. A well-made sword held its edge. A well-balanced pilum flew true. The blacksmiths working for the legions were masters of their craft, creating weapons and armor on an industrial scale to equip the most effective fighting force of the ancient world. Beyond the farm, the construction site, and the battlefield, the blacksmith's work permeated every aspect of daily life. In the kitchen, iron knives, pots, and tripods were essential for cooking. For transport, the blacksmith forged wheel rims, axle components, and horseshoes that made travel over Roman roads faster and more durable. They made everything from delicate medical instruments for surgeons to the heavy chains used for slaves or anchors. If an object needed to be strong, durable, and reliable, it was almost certainly made of iron, and it came from the forge of a blacksmith. They were the ultimate problem solvers of the ancient world, turning a stubborn, earthly metal into the very tools of civilization. So the next time you see a depiction of ancient Rome, take a moment to listen for that distant, rhythmic clang of a hammer on an anvil. It's the heartbeat of the empire. It's the sound of industry, of innovation, and of the raw power that built, fed, and defended one of the greatest civilizations in history. The blacksmith might have been covered in soot and sweat, but they were true masters, shaping the world one hammer blow at a time. We're stepping into the smoky, clangorous world of the Roman blacksmith, a figure whose skill was as vital to the empire as the legions themselves. We often picture them hammering out horseshoes or basic tools, but their craft was infinitely more complex and crucial. The blacksmith was the unsung master of metal, a true artisan whose work touched every aspect of Roman life, from the battlefield to the very doors of their homes. So stoke the forge, grab your hammers, and let's uncover the incredible versatility of these ancient masters. When you think of the Roman legions, what comes to mind? Disciplined soldiers, imposing formations, and of course, their iconic weapons. But who made those weapons? It was the blacksmith. Every single gladius, the short sword that carved out an empire, began its life in the fires of a smith's forge. Imagine the scene: the glowing metal, the rhythmic pounding of the hammer, the hiss of steam as the blade is quenched. Each sword was a masterpiece of function, perfectly balanced, razor-sharp, and durable enough to withstand the brutal chaos of ancient combat. The blacksmith wasn't just shaping metal. They were forging the instruments of Roman power, the very tools of conquest. And it wasn't just swords. The deadly efficiency of the legion was a system of interlocking parts, all forged by the smith. Think of the pilum, the Roman javelin. Its long iron shank was ingeniously designed to bend upon impact, rendering an enemy's shield useless and preventing the spear from being thrown back. This wasn't an accident. It was a deliberate, brilliant piece of engineering brought to life by a blacksmith who understood the properties of metal under stress. Then there were the thousands upon thousands of spearheads for the auxiliaries, and the pugio, the personal dagger every legionary carried for close-quarters fighting, or as a last resort. Each piece was a testament to the smith's ability to produce weapons of consistent quality on a massive scale. The Roman war machine ran on iron, and the blacksmith was its chief engineer. But the blacksmith's world extended far beyond the battlefield. Back in the bustling cities and quiet villas, their skills were just as essential for peace and security. Consider the simple act of locking your door. Those intricate bronze and iron locks, some with surprisingly complex mechanisms, were the handiwork of a skilled smith. They crafted the keys that gave citizens peace of mind, securing their homes, their businesses, and their valuables. These weren't just crude bolts. Many Roman locks required specific keys with unique patterns, a forerunner to the security systems we rely on today. The blacksmith was the guardian of property, their craft a barrier against theft and a cornerstone of urban order. Beyond security, the blacksmith's work was woven into the very infrastructure of Roman society. Look around any Roman town, and you'd see their work everywhere. The heavy iron chains used in construction to lift massive stone blocks, the chains for anchoring ships in the harbor, even the chains used for prisoners, all came from the forge. They created fittings for carts and wagons, the metal rims for wheels that had to endure the empire's vast network of stone-paved roads. The strength and reliability of these everyday items were paramount, and it was the blacksmith who guaranteed them. They were the creators of connections, the makers of the tough, durable hardware that literally held the Roman world together. The smith was also a pioneer of technology. They weren't just making simple objects. They were crafting components for more complex machinery. The gears and pistons for water mills that ground grain for the city's bread, the intricate parts for siege engines, like the ballista and the onager, and the precise tools needed by other artisans, like sculptors and masons, all required a deep understanding of metallurgy. The blacksmith had to know which type of iron to use, how to temper it for strength, or anneal it for flexibility. They were part problem solver, part engineer. Their forge a laboratory, where the theoretical principles of mechanics were turned into practical, working reality. Because their skills were so diverse and indispensable, the blacksmith was often a central and highly respected figure in their community. They weren't tucked away in some forgotten alley. Their workshop or fabrica was a hub of activity, a place of constant creation and repair. A farmer would come to have a broken plowshare, mended a merchant to get a new axle for his cart, a housewife for a new set of cooking knives, and a wealthy senator to commission an ornate iron gate for his villa. The smith was the go-to person for anything made of metal. They performed custom work, improvised solutions, and kept the community's essential equipment functioning. Their reliability and expertise made them a cornerstone of local life and economy. What truly set the blacksmith apart was their profound, almost intuitive understanding of their materials. This wasn't just a job. It was an art form that required a mastery of the elements. They had to read the color of the glowing metal to know its temperature, from a dull red to a brilliant white-hot. They understood how to use different types of fuel to control the heat of the forge. They knew the precise moment to strike, and the exact force needed to shape the iron without fracturing it. This intimate knowledge of metal's properties, of how it behaved under the twin pressures of fire and force, was a skill passed down through generations. It was a form of elemental magic, turning raw, unyielding ore into objects of utility, security, and power. So the next time you see a depiction of ancient Rome, look beyond the marble columns and the marching legions. Listen for the distant, rhythmic clang of a hammer on an anvil. That sound is the heartbeat of the empire. The blacksmith, with hands calloused by fire and hard work, was a foundational pillar of Roman civilization. From the sword that conquered a province to the key that secured a home, their versatility and mastery enabled almost every other craft and activity. They were the quiet titans of the ancient world, their legacy forged in iron and enduring to this day. From the thunderous clang of the blacksmith's forge, we now step into a world of quiet contemplation and dazzling beauty, the Roman jeweler's workshop. Imagine a space far removed from the soot and sweat of the ironworks. Here, the air is still, filled only with the soft, focused sounds of creation. The gentle tap-tap-tap of a tiny hammer against gold, the whisper of a fine file shaping an intricate pattern, the sharp intake of breath as a master craftsman sets a precious stone into its final, perfect place. This was a realm of immense skill, where brute force gave way to delicate precision and artistic vision. The shimmer of precious metals would have been the first thing to catch your eye. Gold, silver, and electrum, a natural alloy of the two, were the canvases for these ancient artists. But where did all this wealth come from? Rome's vast empire was a treasure chest. Gold flowed in from mines in Spain, Dacia, modern-day Romania, and Egypt. Silver was extracted in massive quantities from Greece and Spain. And the gemstones? Oh, the gemstones were a map of the known world. Deep blue sapphires and rich red garnets from India, vibrant green emeralds from Egypt, luminous pearls from the Persian Gulf, and shimmering amethysts from across the empire. Each gem told a story of trade, conquest, and the insatiable Roman appetite for luxury. With these raw materials, the jeweler employed techniques that are still marveled at today. One of the most breathtaking was granulation. This involved creating tiny, almost microscopic spheres of gold and fusing them onto a surface to create textured patterns. Think of it like painting with golden dust. It required an incredibly steady hand and a deep understanding of metallurgy. Then there was filigree, where fine threads of gold or silver were twisted and curled into delicate lace-like designs. Imagine a spiderweb spun from pure gold. That was the level of intricacy they could achieve. These techniques were often combined, creating pieces with layers of texture and complexity that played with light in the most captivating ways. Of course, no piece was complete without the final flourish of engraving or gem setting. Engraving allowed for personal touches, names, mottos, or intricate scenes carved directly into the metal or a gemstone. Intaglio, where a design was cut into the surface of a gem, was particularly popular for signet rings. When pressed into hot wax, it left a raised impression, acting as a personal signature for letters and documents. This turned a piece of jewelry into a tool of power and identity. Setting the gems themselves was an art form. Each stone had to be perfectly placed in its bezel or claw setting to maximize its color and brilliance, transforming it from a simple rock into a point of radiant light. And what did they create with all this skill? Everything the heart could desire. For the Roman elite, jewelry wasn't just adornment. It was a public declaration of wealth, status, and taste. Men would wear signet rings, often one on each finger, flashing their importance with every gesture. Women's jewelry was even more elaborate. Heavy gold necklaces, some featuring coins with the emperor's portrait, would cascade down their chests. Bracelets, often in the form of coiling serpents, a symbol of health and immortality, would adorn their arms. Earrings, from simple pearl drops to complex chandelier styles, would frame their faces. Perhaps most impressive were the hair ornaments. An elite Roman woman's hairstyle was a complex work of art, and it required an equally artistic set of pins and nets to hold it in place. These weren't simple bobby pins. We're talking about long, elegant pins carved from bone, ivory, or gold, topped with pearls or carved figures. Intricate hairnets woven from the finest gold wire would encase their elaborate hairdos, sparkling with every turn of the head. It was a complete, head-to-toe statement of power and sophistication. Each piece, from a simple ring to an elaborate necklace, was a testament to the jeweler's skill and a window into the Roman obsession with displaying one's place in the world. Looking at these surviving pieces in museums today, it's astonishing to think they were made 2,000 years ago without the aid of modern technology. The precision of the granulation, the delicacy of the filigree, the perfect cut of a gemstone, it all speaks to a level of craftsmanship that is truly timeless. The Roman jeweler was more than a craftsman. They were an artist who understood that in a world of stone and iron, the delicate glint of gold and the fire of a well-cut gem held a unique and enduring power. They didn't just create objects of beauty. They forged symbols of status, identity, and legacy that have continued to fascinate us for centuries. Instead, we're going to explore something much more personal, something that adorned the bodies of Romans from every walk of life, their jewelry. Now you might be thinking jewelry is just for decoration, right? Well, in Rome, it was so much more than that. It was a language, a statement, and a shield. We're about to uncover how these intricate pieces of metal and stone were not just about beauty, but about power, love, and belief. So, let's dive into the glittering world of Roman adornment and amulets. Imagine walking through the bustling streets of ancient Rome, the senators in their fine togas, the merchants hawking their wares, the soldiers in their gleaming armor. What did they all have in common? Many of them would be wearing jewelry, but this wasn't just random bling. For the Romans, what you wore was a direct reflection of who you were. The elite, the 1% of Roman society, didn't shy away from showing off their wealth. We're talking about heavy gold necklaces, elaborate earrings dripping with pearls from the Red Sea, and fingers stacked with rings set with emeralds and sapphires from distant lands like India and Sri Lanka. Think of a wealthy Roman matron attending a lavish dinner party. Her hairstyle, intricate and complex, would be held in place with long decorative pins made of gold or carved ivory, perhaps topped with a pearl. Her earrings might be crotalia, or rattlers, made of multiple pearls or beads designed to jingle and catch the light as she moved, drawing everyone's attention. Her necklaces could be multi-layered, featuring gold chains interwoven with precious gems. This wasn't just fashion, it was a power play. It was a silent announcement to everyone in the room. I am from a powerful family. We have immense wealth and influence. The sheer weight of the gold and the rarity of the gems spoke volumes about their family as ability to acquire luxury, goods from across the vast Roman Empire. It was the ancient equivalent of driving a luxury car or wearing a high-end designer watch. But it wasn't just the super-rich who wore jewelry. Let's consider a Roman soldier stationed on a distant frontier. He might wear a simple iron or bronze ring, perhaps engraved with the eagle of his legion. This ring wasn't about wealth. It was about identity and brotherhood. It connected him to his unit, his comrades, and his duty to Rome. It was a symbol of his commitment and his place in the military machine that held the empire together. Similarly, a craftsman might wear a ring that served as a seal. In a world without modern signatures, a signet ring was crucial for business. It was used to press an impression into hot wax to authenticate documents, seal letters, and authorize transactions. The ring's design, often depicting a personal symbol or their trade, was their unique mark, their brand. So a simple ring could signify your profession, your allegiance, or your personal authority. Now let's talk about love and commitment. The Roman wedding ring is a tradition that has echoed through centuries. While the exact origins are debated, many Romans exchanged rings as a symbol of betrothal. The annulus pronubis, or engagement ring, was often a simple band of iron, symbolizing strength and permanence. It was worn on the fourth finger of the left hand, because the Romans believed a special nerve, the vena amoris, or vein of love, ran directly from that finger to the heart. While this isn't anatomically correct, the sentiment is beautiful and has endured to this day. Later, for those who could afford it, these rings would be made of gold. Some featured clasped hands, a design known as feed, symbolizing harmony and agreement. Others might be engraved with a portrait of the couple, or the simple word Pignus Amoris Habes, you have a pledge of my love. These weren't just objects. They were tangible promises, a daily reminder of a bond between two people. But what if you were worried about more than just your social status or your business deals? What if you were worried about bad luck, illness, or the evil eye? This is where Roman jewelry takes a fascinating turn from the decorative to the divine. The ancient world was seen as a place filled with invisible forces, both good and bad. To navigate this world, Romans relied on amulets, special pieces of jewelry believed to offer protection or bring good fortune. These weren't just superstitions for the uneducated. People from all social classes used them. The jeweler, in this context, became more than just a craftsman. They were, in a way, forging shields against the unseen dangers of the world. One of the most common and powerful symbols you'd find was the phallus, known as the fascinum. Now, before you jump to conclusions, for the Romans, this symbol wasn't primarily obscene. It was a potent symbol of fertility, and more importantly, a powerful charm to ward off evil. It was an aggressive, in-your-face way of saying, back off to bad luck and malevolent spirits. You'd find tiny phallic charms on necklaces, bracelets, and even wind chimes. Roman baby boys were given a special locket called a bulla, which they wore around their necks until they came of age. Inside this locket, protective amulets, often including a small phallic charm, were placed. It was their first line of defense against illness and misfortune during the vulnerable years of childhood. Gods and goddesses were also popular subjects for amulets. A merchant embarking on a risky sea voyage might wear a pendant depicting Mercury, the god of travelers and commerce, hoping for a safe and profitable journey. A soldier heading into battle might carry a small image of Mars, the god of war, for strength and courage. Lovers might wear pendants of Cupid or Venus. These weren't just expressions of faith. They were personal appeals for divine intervention. Each charm was a miniature prayer, a constant connection to a patron deity who could offer guidance and protection. Other symbols were popular too. The luna, a crescent moon-shaped pendant, was worn by girls and women to protect them and was associated with the goddess Diana. Images of animals, like eagles for power or serpents for healing and rebirth, were also common. So the person who made these objects, the Roman jeweler or aurifex, was a master of multiple trades. They had to be a skilled artist, capable of working with precious metals and setting tiny, delicate gems. They had to understand the intricate techniques of granulation, where tiny grains of gold are fused to a surface, or filigree, which involves twisting fine metal threads into delicate patterns. But they also had to be in tune with the cultural and spiritual beliefs of their clients. They needed to know which gods offered protection for which endeavors, which symbols would ward off the evil eye, and which designs signified a binding contract or a loving promise. Their workshop wasn't just a place where beautiful things were made. It was a place where identity was forged, beliefs were given form, and hopes were cast in gold and silver. The legacy of these Roman jewelers is truly remarkable. Because they worked with durable materials like gold, bronze, and gemstones, Thousands of these pieces have survived for 2 millennia, buried in tombs, lost in bathhouses, or hidden away as hoards. When we look at a Roman ring in a museum today, we're not just seeing an ancient artifact. We're seeing a direct link to an individual's life. We can imagine the wealthy woman who wore it to showcase her status, the merchant who used it to seal his deals, the young lover who gave it as a promise, or the child who wore it for protection. These miniature works of art allow us to connect with the ancient Romans on a deeply personal level. They show us that, despite the vast differences in time and technology, some human desires are universal. The desire to be seen, to be loved, and to feel safe. The art of the jeweler gave the Romans a way to wear their stories, their status, and their souls on their sleeves, or rather, on their fingers and around their necks. The sun is barely up, but the rhythmic, rumbling sound of stone grinding against stone already echoes through the streets. This was the soundtrack of Roman life. The air inside a mill would have been a white haze, thick with flour dust that coated every surface, every hair, every fold of clothing. It was a tough, dusty, and absolutely vital job. The miller was the person who turned hard, inedible grains into the very essence of survival, flour. Let's start small, right inside a Roman home. Most families, especially in rural areas, had their own milling tools. The most common was the quernstone. This was a simple but effective device, usually made of 2 circular stones. You'd pour grain into a hole in the top stone, and then, using a wooden handle, you'd turn it. It was hard work, a daily chore often done by the women of the household or by enslaved people. The sound of the quern was as common as the crowing of a rooster. It was the first step in preparing the day's meals, a direct connection between the harvest and the family table. But a single household's quern couldn't feed a city like Rome, with its 1,000,000+ inhabitants. The scale of the city demanded something much bigger, something more industrial. And the Romans, being the master engineers they were, delivered. They developed larger mills, known as malle asinaria, or donkey mills. Imagine a massive hourglass-shaped stone turning on top of a fixed conical one. The sheer weight of this stone, sometimes hundreds of kilograms, was too much for a human to turn all day. So they harnessed the power of animals. A donkey or a mule would be tethered to a wooden beam attached to the top stone, and it would walk in a circle, endlessly, turning the stone and grinding the grain poured in from above. These mills were the engines of urban bakeries, churning out flour day and night to satisfy the city's insatiable hunger. Walking through a commercial bakery in Pompeii, you can still see these massive donkey mills frozen in time. They stand as silent monuments to the incredible labor required to produce this staple food. The millers who ran these operations were essential businessmen. They were the link between the farmers who grew the grain and the bakers who made the bread. Their work was physically demanding, and their reputation was often debated. They were sometimes accused of shortchanging customers by mixing in cheaper fillers, but no one could deny their importance. Without the miller, the entire Roman food system would collapse. But the Romans didn't stop with animal power. They always looked for more efficient ways to do things, and that led them to harness the power of nature itself. This is where we see the rise of the watermill. In places with a steady supply of flowing water, like the Janiculum Hill in Rome or the incredible complex at Bar-Beagle in modern-day France, the Romans built sophisticated water-powered milling factories. The Bar-Beagle aqueduct and mills are a true marvel of ancient engineering. A massive aqueduct would channel water down a steep hillside, and this cascade of water would turn a series of 16 water wheels, one after another. Each wheel powered its own set of millstones. It was an ancient assembly line for flour production, capable of producing enough flour to feed tens of thousands of people every single day. This was industrialization on a scale that wouldn't be seen again for over 1,000 years. It shows just how critical grain processing was to the stability and success of the Roman Empire. The miller's world was one of constant motion, of dust, and of the relentless transformation of raw material into a life-sustaining product. From the humble hand-cranked quern in a small kitchen to the animal-powered mills of city bakeries, and finally to the awe-inspiring water-powered factories, the miller's grind was the engine that fed an empire. It was a job that touched every single person, from the poorest plebeian receiving his grain dole to the emperor himself. The flour they produced was more than just food. It was the foundation of Roman society. So next time you enjoy a piece of bread, take a moment to think about the long history behind it. Think of the Roman miller, covered in flour dust, working tirelessly to the rhythm of the grinding stones. Their story is a powerful reminder of the ingenuity and sheer hard work that underpinned one of history's greatest civilizations. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine walking down a bustling Roman street. The air is thick with the sounds of merchants, the clatter of chariot wheels on stone, and the murmur of 1,000 conversations. But as you turn a corner, a new aroma cuts through it all, warm and inviting. It's the smell of baking bread, a scent that has comforted humanity for millennia. You've arrived at Pistrinum Asterisk, a Roman bakery, the beating heart of the city's food supply. This isn't just a shop, it's a factory of life. Inside, the air is dense with the warmth from a massive wood-fired oven. Listen closely. You can hear the rhythmic asterisk thump, thump, thump asterisk of bakers kneading dough, their arms dusted white with flour. It's a physical, demanding job. They work in unison, a well-oiled machine turning simple flour and water into the most essential food of the empire. The gentle slap of dough being shaped into round loaves, the scrape of wooden peels against the brick floor, and the constant hungry crackle of the fire. This is the symphony of survival. The smell is intoxicating, a complex blend of warm yeast, the nutty aroma of baking flour, and the slightly sweet, smoky scent of burning wood. It's a smell that would have drawn people from blocks away. It's the smell of home, of sustenance, of community. For the average Roman, this scent meant their next meal was secure. For the baker, it was the smell of their livelihood, a craft passed down through generations. Not all bakeries were the same, of course. Rome was a city of stark contrasts, and its bread reflected that. The vast majority of Pistrina asterisk produced the staple of the masses, panis, plebeius or plebeian bread. This was a simple, often coarse loaf, made from whole grain flour. It was dense, filling, and affordable. Think of it as the everyday fuel that powered the legions, built the Colosseum, and kept the sprawling city on its feet. For many of Rome's poorer citizens, this bread, perhaps dipped in a little olive oil or wine, was their entire meal. These bakeries were often large-scale operations. Imagine massive stone mills, sometimes powered by donkeys or mules plodding in endless circles, grinding grain into flour right there on site. The dough would be mixed in huge troughs, then kneaded by hand or with mechanical kneaders powered by the same animals. It was an industry, a vital part of the urban infrastructure. The bakers, or pistors were a powerful guild. They were so crucial to maintaining social order that the state itself took a keen interest in their work. But let's step away from the bustling, workaday bakery and into a different part of the city. In the wealthier districts, the Pistrinum transforms. Here, the air is sweeter, laced with the scent of honey, spices, and fruit. These are the domains of the specialist bakers, the pastry chefs of their day. They weren't just making bread. They were creating edible art for the elite. Imagine the creations that emerged from their ovens. There were fine white loaves, made from expensive sifted flour, a luxury few could afford. These were soft, light, and a world away from the commoner's dark, heavy bread. Then there were the dulce or sweets. Pastries filled with cheese and honey, cakes studded with nuts and poppy seeds, and elaborate breads shaped into incredible forms for lavish banquets animals, figures from mythology, even architectural marvels. These bakers were true artisans. Their skills were highly sought after by wealthy patrons who wanted to impress their dinner guests. A magnificent loaf or a delicate pastry was a status symbol, a way to display wealth and sophistication. The techniques were precise, the ingredients exotic spices from the East, honey from the finest apiaries. The baker's oven in these establishments was not just for sustenance, but for spectacle. Bread was far more than just food in Rome. It was politics. The phrase bread in circuses, or panem et circenses speaks volumes. The Roman government understood that a well-fed populace was a peaceful populace. To prevent riots and unrest, the state implemented the cura annone a massive program to import and distribute grain to the citizens of Rome, often for free or at a heavily subsidized price. This grain dole meant that hundreds of state-supervised bakeries were needed to turn that raw grain into bread. These weren't small, family-run shops. They were enormous, state-contracted facilities. Being a baker with a state contract was a lucrative and respected position. In fact, the profession was often hereditary. If your father was a baker, you were expected to become one too, ensuring a continuous stable supply of this vital commodity. The baker's tomb often reflected his importance. One of the most famous monuments in Rome is the tomb of Marcus Virgilius Euriceus, a baker and contractor from the late Republic. It's a grand, unusual structure, decorated with friezes depicting every stage of the bread-making process: milling, kneading, baking, and weighing. Its very form is meant to resemble a grain silo or oven. It's a powerful statement. I was a baker. I fed Rome, and that is a legacy worth remembering. So, as we leave the warm, fragrant world of the pistrinum let's carry that scent with us. The next time you smell fresh bread baking, take a moment. Remember the Roman baker, covered in flour, sweating by the heat of his wood-fired oven. He wasn't just making a loaf of bread. He was shaping civilization. He was the foundation upon which an empire was built, one simple, essential, life-giving loaf at a time. The baker's skill, his tireless work, literally fed Rome, and in doing so, fueled history. All right, let's journey from the world of taste and sustenance to the realm of pure visual splendor, where patience and precision create masterpieces that have endured for millennia. Welcome to the workshop of the Roman mosaicist. Picture a space far different from the clamor of the blacksmith or the fragrant chaos of the bakery. Here, a focused quiet reigns, punctuated only by the gentle, rhythmic clink, clink, clink of a small hammer striking a stone or a piece of colored glass. This is the sound of tesserae being born, the tiny individual cubes that are the building blocks of a grand artistic vision. The mosaicist's work began long before the first piece was laid. Imagine bins filled with thousands upon thousands of these small tiles, each one needing to be sorted by color, shade, and material. It was a task of immense patience and a keen eye for nuance. The artist would sit, surrounded by a rainbow of potential, selecting each piece with deliberate care. The materials themselves were a testament to the Romans' command over their environment and their trade networks. They used naturally colored stones gathered from across the empire, marbles, limestone, slate, each offering a unique hue and texture. But for the most vibrant and dazzling effects, they turned to a material they perfected, SMALTI, or colored glass. By adding metal oxides to molten glass, they could create brilliant reds, deep blues, and shimmering golds that stone could never replicate. This glass could even be backed with gold or silver leaf to catch the light, making the finished mosaic glitter and come alive. Once the design was sketched out and the tesserae were prepared, the true magic began. The mosaicist worked on a small section at a time, spreading a layer of wet mortar onto the surface, be it a floor, a wall, or even a vaulted ceiling. Then, with tweezers or just nimble fingers, they would press each individual tessera in place. One by one, a picture would slowly emerge from the gray canvas of the mortar. This wasn't just about filling in a shape. It was about creating flow, shadow, and life. The technique, known as opus tessellatum *, involved arranging the tesserae in lines that followed the contours of the figures, a method called *andamento*. This gave the image a sense of movement and energy. For finer details like the glint in an eye or the subtle curve of a lip, they used even smaller pieces in a technique called opus vermiculatum *, meaning worm-like work, because the tiny lines of tesserae seemed to wiggle across the surface. Think about the sheer dedication this required. A large floor mosaic in a wealthy villa could contain hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of individual tesserae. It was a slow, painstaking process that could take a team of artisans months, or even years, to complete. Each piece had to be set at the correct angle to catch the light just right, and the spaces between them, the grout lines, were part of the overall artistic effect. And what stories these mosaics told. They were far more than just pretty patterns. In a public bathhouse, you might find scenes of mythological sea creatures and gods of the ocean, creating an immersive aquatic theme. In the dining room of a wealthy merchant, a mosaic might depict an unswept floor, or asarotus oikos *, with astonishingly realistic-looking scraps of food, fish bones, and spilled wine, a clever and humorous display of abundance. These artworks were a direct reflection of the owner's status, education, and tastes. A floor depicting scenes from Homer's *Iliad*, or Virgil *Aeneid*, was a clear sign that the homeowner was a man of culture and learning. Mosaics of exotic animals, tigers, leopards, elephants, showcased the owner's wealth and connection to the far reaches of the Roman Empire, perhaps even hinting that they sponsored lavish games in the amphitheater. We see portraits of the family, intricate geometric patterns that play with optical illusions, and calendars marking the seasons with allegorical figures. One of the most famous mosaics ever discovered, the Alexander mosaic from Pompeii, is a breathtakingly dynamic battle scene, a copy of an earlier Greek painting. It's a masterpiece of composition and emotion, all captured with tiny pieces of stone. It's a testament to the mosaicists' ability not just to decorate, but to narrate, to capture a fleeting moment and make it permanent. So, the next time you see a Roman mosaic in a museum, I want you to look closer. Don't just see the big picture. Try to see the individual tesserae. Imagine the quiet workshop, the patient hand that sorted the colors, the steady eye that cut the stone, and the artistic mind that placed each tiny piece one by one to build a story that would speak to us across 2,000 years. The mosaicists' patience wasn't just a virtue. It was the very essence of their art, a slow and deliberate creation of beauty meant to last for eternity. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to walk through an ancient Roman city? To see what they saw? To feel the pulse of their daily lives? Well, in a way, we can. The Romans left behind an incredible, durable, and breathtakingly beautiful art form that acts as a time capsule, preserving their world in millions of tiny, colorful stones. I'm talking, of course, about mosaics. We're stepping onto the very floors that Romans trod upon 2,000 years ago. We're going to explore how mosaics weren't just decorations, but a vibrant storytelling medium that immortalized every facet of Roman life, from the epic to the everyday. These intricate artworks are more than just pretty pictures. They are a direct window into the Roman soul. Imagine you're a wealthy Roman merchant, returning home after a long day at the Forum. You step into your villa, and the first thing you see isn't a plain floor, but a stunning mosaic covering the entire atrium. Perhaps it depicts a fierce lion hunt in North Africa, a reminder of the vastness and power of the empire. Or maybe it's a scene from Greek mythology, featuring gods and heroes, a display of your education and cultural sophistication. As you walk towards the dining room, the triclinium, the mosaic under your feet might change to a lively depiction of fish, fruits, and wine, setting the mood for the feast to come. This wasn't just art. It was an experience, an integrated part of the architectural and social fabric of the home. Mosaics were absolutely everywhere in the Roman world. From the most lavish private villas in Pompeii to the grand public bathhouses in Rome, from temples in the Middle East to administrative buildings in Britain. They were a status symbol, a form of entertainment, and a public statement all rolled into one. The sheer ubiquity of these creations tells us just how much the Romans valued them. They weren't tucked away in a gallery. They were lived on, walked on, and integrated into the very essence of a space. So, what exactly did they choose to immortalize in stone? The answer is everything. Roman mosaics are an incredible encyclopedia of their world. We see brutal, action-packed gladiatorial contests, with fighters named and celebrated like modern sports stars. These scenes, often found in public spaces or the homes of wealthy patrons, captured the raw energy and spectacle that so defined Roman entertainment. You could almost hear the roar of the crowd. They also depicted the natural world with incredible detail and fascination. Mosaics teem with exotic animals from the furthest corners of the empire. Elephants, tigers, crocodiles, and ostriches. These weren't just decorative. They were a testament to Rome's reach and its power to bring the wonders of the world back to its citizens. Sometimes these scenes were purely scientific in their detail, almost like a zoological textbook in stone. Other times, they were part of a larger narrative, a beast hunt, or a mythological story. And oh, the mythology. The tales of gods, goddesses, and heroes were a bottomless well of inspiration. Mosaics of Venus, the goddess of love, emerging from the sea, or the daring exploits of Hercules, were incredibly popular. These stories reinforced shared cultural values, educated the illiterate, and connected the Romans to a legendary past. Looking at a mosaic of the Trojan War was like watching a blockbuster movie for them, a story they all knew and loved, brought to life in vibrant color. But it wasn't all grand spectacle and epic tales. What I find most charming are the mosaics that capture the quiet, humorous, and relatable moments of daily life. In the entrance to one house in Pompeii, there's a famous mosaic of a guard dog, chained and snarling, with the words, "Cave Canum." Beware of the dog. It's a security sign, ancient and yet instantly familiar. Elsewhere, we find mosaics known as the unswept floor, or asarotos oikos. These cleverly depicted the scattered remnants of a lavish dinner party, fish bones, fruit peels, a discarded chicken leg, all meticulously rendered in stone. It was a witty display of wealth, suggesting a feast so grand that the host didn't even bother to clean up. It's this kind of detail, this sense of humor and humanity, that truly bridges the millennia. Now we have to talk about the artists, the unsung heroes behind these masterpieces, the Mosaicists. These were highly skilled artisans, masters of their craft. A mosaic wasn't painted, it was constructed. The artist, or mosaicarius, would first have a design, either drawn directly onto the wet mortar or prepared on a large piece of cloth. Then the painstaking work began. They would take small, cube-shaped pieces of stone, glass, or ceramic, called tesserae, and press them one by one into the setting bed. This was incredibly labor-intensive work. The choice of materials was crucial. They used local stones for common colors, but often imported expensive marble and even colored glass to achieve specific shades and brilliant effects. Think about it. A mosaicist had to be a geologist, knowing which stones would provide the right hue. They had to be a master of color theory, understanding how to place different colored tesserae next to each other to create shading, depth, and the illusion of movement. A slight tilt of a tessera could catch the light differently, making a water scene shimmer or giving a figure a lifelike glint in their eye. And they had to think about durability. These floors were meant to be walked on, to withstand the traffic of hundreds of people every day in a public bath, or the daily life of a family for generations. The materials and techniques they used were so effective that these artworks have survived earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and the simple passage of 2,000 years. The fact that we can still look at them today is the ultimate testament to the skill of the Roman mosaicist. They weren't just making a picture. They were engineering a piece of immortal art. When we look at a Roman mosaic, we are doing something extraordinary. We are seeing the world through Roman eyes. We are standing on the stories they chose to tell themselves, the images that decorated their lives, the heroes they admired, the animals that fascinated them, and the jokes that made them laugh. From the grand sweeping narratives of empire and myth to the intimate, personal details of a family home, mosaics give us one of the most vivid, colorful, and enduring records of what it meant to be Roman. They are not silent, static artifacts in a museum. They are vibrant, living histories, set in stone, waiting for us to walk across them and listen to the stories they have been telling for millennia. They allow us to connect with the past in a uniquely physical and imaginative way. We can literally walk upon the very images and ideas that captivated the people of the ancient world. And that is an incredibly powerful feeling. In this episode, Stone to Soul, we're stepping into the world of the Roman sculptor, a place where raw stone was imbued with life and spirit. This is the culmination of everything we've explored, the pinnacle of Roman artistry and engineering, brought to life through the sculptor's vision. Imagine standing in a Roman sculptor's workshop. The air is thick with fine marble dust, catching the sunlight that streams through the high windows. It's a symphony of creation. You'd hear the steady, rhythmic asterisk, tap dash tap dash tap asterisk of a point chisel as it bites into a massive block of Carrara marble, the initial rough shaping of a future masterpiece. Then the sound shifts to the harsh, scraping rasp of files smoothing the surface, followed by the soft, sibilant whisper of polishing cloths, bringing a divine sheen to the finished stone. It was a space that blended the raw power of a quarry with the intense focus of an artist's studio. This was where the magic happened. These masters were more than just stonemasons. They were storytellers, psychologists, and anatomists all rolled into one. Their skill was nothing short of miraculous. They could take an inert, lifeless piece of marble, and with nothing but their hands and simple tools, transform it into something that seemed to breathe. We see this most powerfully in their portrait busts. These aren't just generic faces. They are portraits of real people, filled with character and emotion. Look at the weary lines on a seasoned general's face, the subtle, knowing smile of a wealthy matron, or the arrogant curl of an emperor's lip. The sculptors captured the very essence, the asterisk anima asterisk of their subjects. It wasn't just about getting the likeness right. It was about capturing a soul in stone, immortalizing a fleeting human moment for eternity. But their genius didn't stop at individual portraits. They created grand, heroic statues of emperors, often larger than life, depicted as gods or invincible commanders. Think of the famous Augustus of Prima Porta. He stands not just as a man, but as the embodiment of Roman power, divinely sanctioned and eternally victorious. The detail is staggering. The intricate carvings on his breastplate tell the story of Roman triumphs. His gesture is one of command, and his expression is one of serene, absolute authority. These statues were powerful propaganda, placed in public forums and basilicas, to constantly remind citizens of the emperor's might and the glory of Rome. Every fold in the toga, every muscle in the arm, was carefully calculated to project a message of strength and stability. Then there were the narrative reliefs, entire stories carved into stone. These were the comic books and epic films of their day. Look at the side of a Roman sarcophagus. It's not just a box for the deceased. It's a canvas depicting scenes from mythology, the deceased's own life story, or battles fought and won. These intricate scenes are crowded with figures, each one carved with incredible detail and emotion, telling a story that unfolds as you walk around it. It's a visual feast designed to celebrate a life and ensure the memory of the individual would live on. The sculptors had to be masters of composition, fitting complex narratives into a confined space while maintaining clarity and dramatic impact. And of course, we have the triumphal arches, like the Arch of Titus or the Arch of Constantine in Rome. These massive structures are living history books. The reliefs covering them aren't just decoration. They are detailed, moment-by-moment accounts of military campaigns. You can see Roman soldiers marching, carrying the spoils of war, and vanquishing their enemies. The artists who carved these panels were masters of perspective and depth, creating a sense of action and movement. On the Arch of Titus, you can almost hear the trumpets and the cheers of the crowd as you look at the procession carrying the menorah from the temple in Jerusalem. It's a snapshot of history, a frozen moment of Roman triumph, carved with such realism that you feel like you are witnessing the event yourself. The anatomical knowledge required for this was astounding. Without modern medical textbooks, these sculptors developed a profound understanding of the human body. They knew how muscles tensed under strain, how fabric draped over a moving limb, and how age and emotion etched themselves onto a face. This wasn't just abstract knowledge. It was an intuitive, hands-on understanding gained through years of observation and practice. They studied athletes, soldiers, and politicians, observing how they moved, stood, and expressed themselves. This deep knowledge allowed them to create figures that were not only realistic, but also idealized, representing the Roman concept of asterisk virtues asterisk, a combination of valor, excellence, and moral worth. What's truly incredible is the sheer consistency of quality across the vast Roman Empire. From Britain to Syria, from Germany to North Africa, you find sculptures of remarkable skill. While styles might vary slightly based on local traditions, the fundamental techniques and artistic standards pioneered in Rome were present everywhere. This was made possible by traveling workshops and the movement of skilled artisans who carried their knowledge with them. An emperor's official portrait, once created in Rome, would be replicated and sent out to every corner of the empire, ensuring his image was known to all his subjects. This network of artistry was a key part of the cultural glue that held the massive empire together. So, as we look at these marble figures in museums today, silent and still on their pedestals, let's remember the dynamic, noisy, and dusty workshops where they were born. Let us appreciate the vision of the artists who saw a soul sleeping inside a block of stone and had the skill to set it free. They captured the faces, the stories, and the very spirit of ancient Rome, giving us a direct, tangible connection to a world that vanished 2 millennia ago. Their work is a testament to the enduring power of art to transcend time. Let's start with the big stuff, the public sculptures. Picture yourself walking through the bustling Roman Forum. You'd be surrounded by larger-than-life statues. Towering figures of emperors, gods, and military heroes would gaze down at you from every corner, from atop magnificent triumphal arches and from the grand facades of temples. These weren't just decorations. They were the 24/7 news cycle of the ancient world. They were pure, unadulterated propaganda. Think about the famous statue of Augustus of Prima Porta. He's not just standing there. He's depicted as a victorious general, a divinely sanctioned leader. The intricate details on his breastplate aren't just pretty carvings. They're a visual resume of his greatest achievements, celebrating peace and prosperity brought by his rule. Every curl of his hair, every fold of his toga, was meticulously planned to project an image of power, stability, and divine favor. When a citizen saw this, they weren't just seeing a man. They were seeing Rome itself, personified in its glorious leader. These public statues served multiple purposes. They commemorated military victories, reinforcing the idea of Rome's unstoppable might. Columns like Trajan's column in Rome are a perfect example. It's not just a pillar, It's a sprawling, continuous comic strip in stone, documenting the entire Dacian Wars campaign. Soldiers, battles, construction projects, it's all there, spiraling upwards. For the average Roman, most of whom were illiterate, this was their history book. It was a visceral visual reminder of the empire's strength and the emperor's leadership. Furthermore, these sculptures played a key role in the imperial cult. After their death, and sometimes even during their lifetime, emperors were deified, declared gods. Statues were erected in temples, and people would make offerings to them. This practice blurred the line between political leader and divine being, cementing the emperor's authority in a way no law ever could. It created a powerful bond between the people and their ruler, a sense of shared destiny under a godlike protector. The sculptor, in this context, was a kingmaker, a visual theologian shaping the very beliefs of the populace. But what about life away from the grand public squares? What happened inside the Roman home? Here, sculpture took on a much more personal, intimate role. This is where we find the tradition of private portrait busts. If you were a wealthy Roman, your home's atrium would be lined with lifelike busts of your ancestors. Walking into that room would be like walking through your family's history. These weren't idealized, godlike figures. Roman portraiture is famous for its incredible realism, a style we call verism. They captured every wrinkle, every wart, every receding hairline. This wasn't about vanity, it was about legacy. These busts were a tangible connection to the past, a way of honoring the asterisk mos maiorum asterisk, the way of the ancestors. They served as a constant reminder to the living members of the family of the virtues, achievements, and prestige of those who came before them. It was a way of saying, this is who we are. This is the standard you must uphold. Displaying these ancestral portraits was also a major status symbol. It showcased your family's lineage, your deep roots in Roman society. During important family events, like funerals, these busts would even be carried in processions, literally having the ancestors present for the occasion. It was a powerful display of family pride and continuity. The sculptor here wasn't just creating a likeness. They were a keeper of memory, a guardian of family honor. They were tasked with capturing the essence of a person, their character, their history, for all posterity. So, when you put it all together, you see the incredible dual role of the Roman sculptor. On one hand, they were public relations experts, crafting the grand narrative of the empire. They were propagandists who used their chisels to deify emperors and celebrate military might, shaping the collective identity of Rome on a massive scale. Their work ensured that the emperor's image was one of unquestionable authority and divine right. On the other hand, they were personal historians, the chroniclers of family lines. They created intimate, realistic portraits that preserved the memory of individuals, anchoring families to their heritage and reinforcing social status. They captured the very soul of their subjects, ensuring that they would be remembered not as abstract figures, but as real people. This is the genius of Roman sculpture. It operated on both a macro and a micro level, shaping the empire and the home simultaneously. The Roman sculptor was far more than just an artist. They were a storyteller, a propagandist, a historian, and a guardian of memory. Their work wasn't just about creating beautiful objects. It was about constructing an entire visual culture. And that legacy is incredibly powerful. When we think of the Romans today, when we picture Caesar, or Augustus, or a stern-faced Roman matron, the image that comes to mind was almost certainly carved in stone by one of these ancient masters. They didn't just sculpt stone. They sculpted our entire perception of the Roman world. Their work is a testament to the enduring power of art to define an era and shape history itself. Step into a world of roaring fire and breathtaking creation. Imagine a workshop, the air thick with heat, the centerpiece a furnace glowing with an intensity that could melt sand into liquid sun. This is the realm of the Roman glassblower, a master of fire and breath, a true artist whose craft borders on magic. We are about to journey back in time to witness one of the most mesmerizing ancient technologies, glassblowing. Forget what you think you know about ancient life being simple. The Romans were pioneers, and their glassware was a testament to their ingenuity and love for beauty. From the moment the raw materials, sand, soda ash, and lime, were fused together in the crucible at temperatures over 1,000 degrees Celsius, a spectacular transformation began. Picture the scene. The glassblower, or vitrerius asterisk, approaches the furnace. The heat is a physical presence, a wave that washes over you. He dips a long, hollow metal tube, the blowing iron, into the furnace's fiery heart. With a practiced twist, he gathers a glowing, honey-like glob of molten glass on the end. This isn't just a lump of hot material. It's pure potential, a liquid jewel waiting to be born. Now the real dance begins. The artisan brings the pipe to his lips, and with a gentle, controlled puff, he breathes life into the glass. The glob expands, a delicate, shimmering bubble forming at the end of the iron. This is the breath of fire, the very soul of the craft. It's a moment of pure alchemy, turning a formless mass into a hollow vessel. But it's far from finished. The glass cools rapidly, so the process is a constant race against time. The glassblower continuously reheats the piece in a secondary furnace, known as the glory hole, to keep it malleable. He swings the pipe, using gravity and centrifugal force to elongate the bubble. He might roll it on a flat stone slab, called a marver, to smooth and shape it. Every movement is precise, honed by years of experience. There's no room for error. A moment's hesitation and the piece could deform, crack, or shatter. Imagine the sounds of the workshop, the constant, hungry roar of the furnace, the sharp hiss of the gas jets, the gentle, rhythmic puff of the glassblower's breath, and the subtle clinking of metal tools against the cooling glass. It's a symphony of creation, a soundtrack to innovation. Using tools that look surprisingly simple, pincers, shears, and wooden blocks, the artisan then begins to sculpt the piece. With a deft pinch here and a precise snip there, a simple bubble transforms. A neck is formed, a lip is flared, a base is attached. He might add a handle, pulling a ribbon of molten glass from a separate gather and seamlessly fusing it to the main body. The dexterity required is astounding. It's like watching a surgeon and a ballet dancer all in one. One of the most critical moments is separating the finished piece from the blowing iron. A sharp tap, a quick score with a wet tool, and the vessel breaks free with a satisfying tink. But it's not done yet. It's then transferred to an annealing oven, a special kiln where it cools down slowly over many hours, sometimes even days. This crucial step relieves the internal stresses within the glass, preventing it from shattering spontaneously. It's a final, patient tempering that ensures the piece's longevity. And the results? Absolutely stunning. The Romans didn't just make functional items. They made art. We see delicate perfume vials, or unguentaria asterisk, designed to hold precious oils and scents. Their slender forms and tiny openings speak of luxury and personal care. Think of the elegant drinking cups, some so thin and clear they were known as auditorium asterisk, or for listening to, as they would ring beautifully when tapped. They crafted ornate bowls, decorated with intricate patterns. Some had threads of colored glass spiraled around them while still hot. Others were speckled with vibrant ships of color, creating a mosaic effect. The Romans mastered coloring glass by adding different metal oxides to the molten mix. Cobalt for deep blues, copper for reds and greens, manganese for purples, and to decolorize, creating that prized transparency that mimicked rock crystal. Perhaps most revolutionary was the production of window panes. Before this, openings in buildings were just that holes may be covered with wood shutters or animal hides. Roman glassblowing allowed for the creation of flat glass, albeit not as perfect as our modern panes. They would either blow a large cylinder, cut it open, and flatten it, or spin a glob of glass into a large disc known as crown glass. Suddenly, buildings could have light without the wind and rain. This fundamentally changed architecture and the very experience of being indoors. It brought light, warmth, and a connection to the outside world into Roman homes, baths, and public buildings. Roman glass was more than just a container. It was a status symbol, a trade commodity, and a medium for artistic expression. Its transparency was a marvel, a stark contrast to the opaque or translucent pottery that had dominated for centuries. Light could pass through it, illuminating the color of the wine within a cup or brightening an entire room. This incredible technology spread throughout the Roman Empire, from Italy to Germany, from Britain to Egypt. Standardized shapes and sizes meant that glass vessels became some of the first mass-produced goods in history. Yet each piece retained the subtle imperfections and unique character of a handmade object. The faint pontil mark on the base, where it was held, the slight asymmetry, the tiny air bubbles trapped within. These aren't flaws. They are the fingerprints of the artisan, the echoes of that fiery workshop. So next time you hold a glass, take a moment. Feel its smoothness. Admire its clarity. Remember the Roman glassblower, the master of fire and breath. Remember the roaring furnace, the glowing iron, and the incredible magic of turning sand into starlight. It's a legacy of innovation and beauty that we still hold in our hands today. You're in for a surprise, because their glass industry was nothing short of spectacular, shaping daily life in ways that are both surprisingly familiar and incredibly innovative. So, grab a glass of your favorite beverage, and let's shatter some myths about ancient technology. Before we dive into the beautiful objects themselves, let's set the scene. Imagine walking through the bustling streets of Rome, Pompeii, or even a far-flung provincial town. You'd see glass everywhere. It wasn't just a rare luxury reserved for the emperor. Thanks to the invention of glassblowing around the 1st century BCE, production skyrocketed. Suddenly, glass became more accessible, more affordable, and incredibly versatile. This wasn't just a new material. It was a technological revolution that could change everything from how people stored their goods to how they lit their homes. The Romans didn't invent glass, but they perfected its production and application on an industrial scale never seen before. Let's start with the small, everyday items. Think about your bathroom cabinet. It's probably filled with bottles and jars, right? The Romans were no different. Roman glassmakers produced millions of small vials, flasks, and jars, known as unguentaria. What were they used for? Just about everything. These delicate containers held precious perfumes from the East, fragrant oils for bathing, and vital medicines prescribed by physicians. Their non-porous and non-reactive nature made them perfect for preserving these valuable liquids. So the next time you spritz on some perfume, remember that a Roman living 2,000 years ago did something very similar, using a beautifully crafted glass bottle that was both a practical object and a small statement of personal care and sophistication. But Roman glass wasn't just for practical storage. It was a centerpiece of their vibrant social life, especially at the dining table. Imagine a Roman banquet, or convivium. While the wealthy might have silver or gold cups, high-quality, fine glassware was a sign of immense taste and status. Glassmakers became true artists, creating incredibly delicate and ornate drinking cups, bowls, and pitchers. They experimented with color, adding minerals to create vibrant shades of blue, green, and amber. Some even perfected techniques like millefiori, where slices of colorful glass canes were fused together to create stunning mosaic-like patterns. Drinking from one of these delicate cups wasn't just about quenching your thirst. It was a sensory experience, a display of wealth, and an appreciation of artistry. These weren't just cups. They were conversation starters. Now, let's talk about taking glass from the tabletop to the walls and floors. The Romans were masters of mosaics, creating breathtaking images from tiny, colored squares called tesserae. While stone and ceramic were common, the most vibrant and shimmering effects were achieved with glass tesserae. By adding metal oxides, glassmakers could produce a dazzling palette of colors that stone simply couldn't match. Gold leaf glass, made by sandwiching gold foil between two layers of clear glass, was especially prized. It caught the light, making religious and mythological scenes in villas and public baths seem to glow with an inner fire. These mosaics weren't just decoration. They were powerful statements of culture, wealth, and faith, and glass was the key ingredient that made them truly shine. Perhaps the most transformative use of Roman glass, however, was in architecture. For most of human history, an opening in a wall meant letting in not just light, but also wind, rain, and cold. The Romans changed that with the widespread adoption of window glass. While early versions were thick and cloudy, the technology improved rapidly. They developed cast glass panes, which were poured into a mold, and later, cylinder-blown glass, which could produce larger, clearer sheets. For the first time, public buildings like bathhouses and basilicas, as well as the homes of the wealthy, could have large windows that flooded interiors with natural light while keeping the elements at bay. This was a revolution in comfort and design, creating brighter, warmer, and more pleasant living spaces. It fundamentally changed the relationship between a building's interior and the outside world. So, who were the masters behind these creations? The Roman glassblower. This was a highly skilled profession, requiring a steady hand, strong lungs, and an artist's eye. From a glowing, molten blob of sand, soda, and lime, they could conjure an astonishing variety of forms. They could blow a vessel so thin it was barely there, or cast a thick, sturdy pane of window glass. They were part chemist, part artisan, and part engineer. Their workshops, found all across the empire from Germany to Egypt, were hubs of innovation. They didn't just follow patterns. They experimented, creating new shapes, colors, and decorative techniques that pushed the boundaries of what was possible. The Roman glassblower was a key figure who contributed to hygiene, luxury, and architectural progress. The legacy of Roman glass is truly remarkable. Many of the techniques they pioneered, especially glassblowing, remained the standard for centuries. The sheer quantity and quality of the glassware they produced is staggering. Archaeologists continue to unearth beautiful examples, from simple bottles to exquisite cameo glass like the famous porcelain vase, which are now treasured in museums worldwide. These objects are more than just pretty artifacts. They are windows, quite literally, into the daily lives, aspirations, and technical genius of the Roman people. They show us a society that valued both function and form, utility and beauty in equal measure. From a simple perfume vial to a grand window in a bathhouse, Roman glass touched nearly every aspect of life. It demonstrates a mastery of material science and an aesthetic sensibility that is truly timeless. The next time you look through a window or admire a piece of modern art glass, take a moment to remember its ancient roots in the workshops of the Roman Empire. The clarity, color, and creativity of Roman glassmakers continue to inspire and amaze us. 2 millennia later, we finally reached the end of our journey, the conclusion of our 5-part exploration into the hidden world of Rome's artisans. For the past few weeks, we've stepped away from the grand narratives of emperors and legions to listen to the quieter, yet more resonant sounds of the empire. The chip of the stonemason's chisel, the hiss of hot metal in the blacksmith's forge, and the gentle whir of the weaver's loom. We hope this series has given you a newfound appreciation for the silent, tireless forces that truly built Rome. 030. These were the people whose hands shaped an empire. We began our journey in the dust and sweat of the quarry, witnessing the monumental effort of the stonemasons, who hewed the very foundations of Roman grandeur from the earth. They were the architects of permanence, their work forming the skeleton on which the city's flesh was built. We saw how their skill transformed raw stone into majestic temples, enduring aqueducts, and the roads it connected a vast civilization. Theirs was a legacy written in marble and travertine, a testament to strength and precision that still stands today. 1 o'clock. From there, we moved into the fiery heart of the city, into the workshops of the blacksmiths and metalworkers. We heard the rhythmic clang of hammer on anvil, a sound that was the true pulse of Roman industry and military might. These masters of fire and steel forged everything from the legionary as gladius and armor to the farmer as plow and the builder as nails. Their work was essential, providing the tools of conquest, construction, and daily survival. Without their ingenuity, the Roman war machine would have ground to a halt, and the empire's expansion would have been impossible. 1:30. Then we explored the delicate and almost magical world of the glassblowers. We watched as they transformed simple sand and heat into objects of breathtaking beauty and utility. With a single, controlled breath, they created everything from elegant drinking vessels for the elite to the first window panes that let light into Roman homes. Their craft was a symbol of Roman innovation and luxury, a fusion of art and science that brightened daily life and demonstrated the empire's sophisticated tastes. They captured light itself, trapping it in translucent forms that have survived for millennia. 2 o'clock. Our journey continued into the realm of textiles, visiting the weavers and fullers. Here, we discovered the intricate processes that turned raw wool and flax into the fabrics of Roman life. From the simple tunics of the common citizen to the vibrant, dyed togas of the senators, these artisans clothed an entire society. Their work was not just about function. It was a language of status, identity, and wealth. The colors they used, derived from precious minerals and exotic sea snails, told stories of power and privilege. They were the creators of Rome's visual identity, weaving the very social fabric of the city. 2:30. We then turned to the earth itself, to the humble yet vital workshops of the potters. Their hands, covered in clay, spun the essential vessels of daily existence. Amphorae for wine and oil, bowls for food, lamps to light the darkness. These were the products of the potter's wheel. Their craft was the backbone of Roman logistics and trade. The sheer volume of their output, with fragments found from Britain to the Near East, speaks to their indispensable role. Each shard of pottery we find today is a piece of a puzzle, a clue to the diet, economy, and everyday habits of the Roman people. 3 o'clock. Of course, no Roman home was complete without the skilled touch of the leatherworker. We delved into their workshops, filled with the rich, earthy scent of tanned hides. They were the creators of durability and practicality. From the legionaries' tough sandals, the caligae that marched across continents, to belts, bags, and harnesses for horses, their products were built to last. They understood the properties of their material intimately, transforming animal skin into essential gear that was both rugged and flexible, supporting the military, agriculture, and civilian life in countless ways. 3:30. We also paid a visit to the jewelers, the masters of miniature artistry. In their small, meticulous workshops, they worked with precious metals and gemstones, crafting symbols of love, status, and devotion. Intricate rings, delicate earrings, and elaborate necklaces were not just adornments. They were personal statements and family heirlooms. These artisans demonstrated incredible precision, using tiny tools to create pieces that reflected the wealth and personal stories of their patrons. Their work gives us an intimate glimpse into the private lives and values of the Romans. 4 o'clock. Then we followed the scent of fresh bread to the millers and bakers, the artisans who fed the massive population of Rome. We saw the immense power of the watermills and the tireless labor of those who ground grain into flour. The bakers, rising before dawn, transformed this flour into the daily bread that was a staple for every Roman, rich or poor. The state-sponsored grain dole, The asterisk and non-asterisk depended entirely on their efficiency. They were at the heart of the city's survival, their work a daily bulwark against hunger and social unrest. 4:30. Finally, we marveled at the stunningly detailed work of the Mosaicists and Sculptors. The Mosaicists were painters in stone, using thousands of tiny colored tiles or tesserae to create vibrant floors and walls that depicted everything from mythological scenes to scenes of daily life. They brought color and narrative into Roman villas and public buildings. The Sculptors, meanwhile, worked on a grander scale, carving the portraits of emperors and gods that defined the public face of the empire. They immortalized individuals in marble, capturing not just a likeness, but a sense of character and power, creating the very images we associate with Roman civilization. 5 o'clock. So as we look back on this journey, we see that Rome wasn't just built by emperors and generals. It was built by the calloused hands and creative minds of these countless, often anonymous artisans. The stonemasons, blacksmiths, glassblowers, weavers, potters, leatherworkers, jewelers, bakers, and artists. They were the true architects of Roman life. They crafted its grandeur, they enabled its daily functions, and they left behind a tangible legacy that we can still touch, see, and learn from today. 5:30. Their stories are a powerful reminder that history is not just about the names we all know. It's about the collective effort of millions. It's about the ingenuity, the dedication, and the sheer hard work of ordinary people who, together, accomplished the extraordinary. The grandeur of the Colosseum is inseparable from the sweat of the quarry worker. The elegance of a Roman villa is a credit to the Mosaicist's patient hand. The might of the legions depended on the blacksmith's fire and the leatherworker's skill. 6 o'clock. These artisans were the foundation, the engine, and the artistic soul of the Roman world. Their workshops were the crucibles of civilization, where raw materials were transformed into the substance of an empire. While their names are mostly lost to time, their work endures. It speaks to us across the centuries, telling a story of human creativity and resilience. It reminds us that behind every great monument and every powerful empire, there are countless individuals whose labor made it all possible. 6:30. They were the unsung heroes of Rome, and we hope this series has helped to finally give them a voice, to let the sounds of their workshops echo once more. The story of Rome is their story. It's written in stone, forged in iron, woven in wool, and shaped in clay. It's a story of the many, not just the few, and it's a story that continues to inspire and fascinate us to this day. We hope you now see the streets of ancient Rome, not just as a stage for the powerful, but as a bustling, vibrant network of workshops filled with the creators and innovators who truly built the world we've been exploring. 7 o'clock. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the hidden lives of Rome as essential craftsmen. It has been an incredible privilege to explore these stories with you. If you've enjoyed this series and want to see more content that uncovers the hidden histories of our past, please consider giving this video and the series a like. It really helps us know what kind of content you want to see more of. 7:30. And if you know someone else who is fascinated by history, especially the parts that are often overlooked, please share this series with them. Spreading the word is the best way to support our work. Finally, if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you won't miss our next adventure into the past. We have many more stories to tell. Thank you again for watching. We'll see you in the next series.